a short introduction about diffusing particle in special field. I will show the Smoluchowski equation. Then I will present our new formalism, our experimental setup, how we do the data analysis, some results. Okay, so many biophysical experiments involves diffusion particle in a harmonic potential field. For example, we have optical tweezers, magnetical tweezers, ether particle motion, etc. Finding the parameters of this experiment, the diffusion coefficient and the spring constant is important, but usually it requires some calibration. And I will present now a new formalism that allows extracting simultaneously the diffusion coefficient and the spring constant without any calibration. Okay, so the Smoluchowski equation is the equation that of the potential field for the force. Now, for a one-dimensional harmonic potential case, the force is kx, and we get this form of the equation. Let's just think what is the intuition. If we look at the particle in a potential field, and we look at this particle very short time after the first observation, we probably find the particle very close to its previous position. But if we will wait a long time, the probability to find this particle is the Boltzmann distribution, or the steady state distribution, okay, which is the exponent of the potential divided by the thermal energy. Okay, and this is just an illustration. If we look at the particle very short time after the first observation, we will find it with a probability close to its previous position, and for a long time we will find it according to Boltzmann distribution. Let's look at the short simulation. The red balls here are diffusing particles, and the blue are diffusing particles in a harmonic potential field. Okay? If we look at the particle at t equal to 0, we will find these particles in a distribution which is the Dirac delta function, okay? Because the particle doesn't move at all. If we look at the particles at a long time after the initiation, we will find it at the Boltzmann distribution. Any time in between, we will find some distribution. The Smoluchowski equation tells us what will be this distribution. For the case of the one-dimensional harmonic potential, we have an analytic solution to the Smoluchowski's equation. Okay, this is the solution. Note that this solution for delta t goes to 0. This function will be the delta function, Dirac delta function. For delta t goes to infinity, it's collapsed to the Boltzmann distribution. Now, the shape of this solution is a Gaussian. Okay, we have an exponent of minus something square. The center of the Gaussian and the width of the Gaussian is depend on the diffusion coefficient, the spring constant, the time, and of course the initial position. I will show now an animation of the solution, the time evolution of the solution. Okay, we started with a very narrow distribution around minus 600 nanometer, and as the time goes, the distribution gets wider, and the center of the distribution goes to the to the 0 point or the center of the harmonic potential field. Okay, this is a simulation and the analytical solution of the Smoluchowski equation, and we see that it's quite fixed and it's collapsed to the steady state distribution. Okay. Now let's look at the joint probability distribution. The joint probability distribution is actually the distribution at any initial position. Okay, if we look, let's say at this point, we start at this point. Okay, what will be the distribution to find the particle after some time delta t? Okay, here it's in units of delta t over tau, where tau is some time constant of the system. Okay, so the cross section at this axis will give us the Gaussian. Okay, where for short time the Gaussian is narrow, for long time the Gaussian gets wider, and also this slope that represents the center of the Gaussian. So the slope will change also as a function of the time. Okay? Now, actually the initial position in the real world cannot be uniform, because the initial position itself also distributed according to Boltzmann distribution. So we get a slightly different shape, but the slope and the width remains the same. Okay? Although we have a slightly different shape, it still represents the same slope and the same width. That, of course, changing during the time. Okay, let's examine the slope and the width. So the slope, we find it from this expression, which is actually the center of the Gaussian, and it depends on tau. Okay, well, tau is a function of k multiplied by d. On the other hand, the width is a function of tau, as a function of tau, okay, but it's also a function of the spring constant. So, from the slope, we can find kd, but from the width, we can find kd and k. Or in other words, we can find k and d independently. Now, finding the slope itself, it's or finding tau from the slope, is very similar to finding the corner frequency from the power spectrum, which is very common used in optical tweezers experiments. Actually, the tau that I mentioned before is equal to, or the corner frequency is equal to 1 over pi tau. Okay, they are very related. But nevertheless, in order to find d, we need to know something about k, or in order to find k, we need to know something about d. Okay, that's what I mentioned earlier. That usually we need some calibration for such an experiment. Our formalism based not only on the slope, but on the width. And hence, we can find both the spring constant and the diffusion coefficient independently from the same...
You can get K from equipartition theorem. Steady state?
From the steady state.
Steady state equipartition theorem.
Yes, but the steady state requires a long time of measurement, and typically for a long time we get noises, etc. It's possible, but our methods, our formalism, let you find this also in a short measurement. Of course, for long measurement you have some advantages, but in this method you have the advantage that even from short time you can find these parameters.
Short time lower than the relaxation time in the system?
Sorry?
Short time, you mean lower than the relaxation time in the system?
Yes, lower than the relaxation time. Or from the order of the relaxation time. Now I will explain about our experimental setup. Tether particle motion is a very common method of a single molecule for measuring, for studies of DNA, RNA, DNA interaction with proteins, etc. There's a lot of papers about TPM. The idea in tether particle motion is to attach one end of the polymer to a surface, while the other end is attached to an optical marker, gold nanobead in our case. And then, typically, we take a set of thousands of images, find the position of the bead at each frame, and then look at the distribution. Now, there's a lot of application for TPM and a lot of analysis methods. Some of them are just for a binary system, like DNA looping or something like this. One of the methods, or one of the applications, is for finding the spring constant of the polymer or the DNA. If we look at the DNA as a model of random walk, as Oleg showed before, we can model the DNA as a string with a string constant. This expression is the string constant. It depends on the contour length of the DNA, persistence length or Kuhn length. Now, if we look at the distribution of the bead position, we actually we will measure the Boltzmann distribution, okay? Because for a long time it's the steady state distribution, and from the Boltzmann distribution we can find the spring constant. Okay, so this is the standard way to analyze TPM experiment. Okay, in this analysis, the diffusion coefficient is irrelevant, okay, because we only look at the steady state. There is no dynamics, and the diffusion coefficient is irrelevant. For more information about TPM, you can go in the poster session to poster number 13 of Guy Neal. He will show you about how study proteins using tether particle motion. Nevertheless, tether particle motion is still a good candidate for the the physical system in TPM is big, which have a diffusion coefficient, and it's in a harmonic potential because of the DNA. So TPM is a good experiment in order to test our new formalisms. Okay, so how we do the data analysis? As I mentioned before, the slope and the width of the joint probability changes with time. Okay, this is an illustration of the, we start with a slope equal to 1 and very narrow width, and as the time gets longer, the slope decreases and the width increases.
That's for averaging over many molecules?
No, that's for one molecule.
One molecule over one distance.
No, I will just show it in a minute. Okay, now, by plotting the width as a function of the time, or it's more comfortable to use it as a function of the frequency, which is 1 over the time, and fitting this plot to the theory, we can find, we can extract D and K. Now, we can also plot the slope as a function of time, but from this plot, we can only find KD. Okay, not independent, not K and V, but the multiplication KD. From both plots, we can note that there are 3 frequencies regimes. High frequencies where the diffusion is dominant, low frequencies where the spring force is dominant. This is actually the steady state. Okay, the steady state is low frequency, and there's a middle range. Okay, where both diffusion and potential field dominate the motion. Okay, actually this is the relevant range in order to find these parameters. Okay, this plot, the upper plot is the plot of the slope. Okay, you can see that in high frequencies the slope approaches to 1. In low frequencies, the slope is 0. Okay, the line is a theory, and the aspect here is from simulation. And the middle range is the relevant range. Okay, and this is the plot of the width divided by the time. Okay, it's the plot looks nicer when you divide it by time. Okay, here the slope is actually exponent of minus delta t divided by tau. Okay, where tau is the time constant or the relaxation time of the system, and the width sigma squared divided by delta t is a function of frequency. Okay, you can see here the spring constant, and here we have tau, which is the spring constant and the diffusion coefficient.
And how many events do you need for each individual point here? It's simulation.
I will show it in a minute. Okay. Typically, in an experiment, we have 3,000 frames. Okay. This is from simulation, so we have, I think, 10,000. Now, look at this line here. Okay. The width, as we go to very high frequencies or very short delta t, actually it's sigma squared is equal to 2d delta t. Okay, it's like normal diffusion without any force. Okay, I think you all know that in diffusion, the sigma square of the sigma square is equal to 2d delta t. for each dimension. Okay, this is for one dimension, we get 2D delta T. Okay, so here in the high frequencies, we see that our curve is approaches to this value of 2D. Okay, because this function is sigma squared divided by delta T. Okay, so it's 2D delta T divided by delta T. We get this 2D. Now, how we actually find this slope and width from an experiment? So, initially we plot all of the positions at T as a function of T plus delta T. Okay, I have Okay, I have a vector time series of position, x1, x2, etc. Then I plot x as a function of x of t plus delta t. But for an example, if I plot here x at t equal to 0, in this axis it will be x at time equal to 1. Okay, etc. Now, from these plots, okay, actually the distribution of these plots is the joint probability that I showed before. We can find the slope. Then we subtract the slope from all of the points, projected all of the points on one axis, and find the histogram. On the histogram, we find we fit this histogram to a Gaussian, and we find the width. Okay. Now we repeat this process for different dt. Okay. If first we take x1 as a function of x0, x2 as a function of x1. Then the next step will be to take x2 as a function of x0, x3 as a function of x1, etc. Okay, so we get delta t is equal to delta t. We have a delta t which is determined from the camera. Okay, it's 1 over the frame rate of the camera. But we can take multiplication of this delta t in order to get larger time intervals or lower frequencies, where the delta t max is half of the experiment time. Okay, so as we go to a larger delta t, we have less points. In order to have enough points, we eliminate it to half of the experiment time. Okay, this is the region of the low frequencies. Okay, the high frequency, the highest frequency actually is the frequency of the camera. Okay, now this is the typical results of an experiment. Okay, this is the joint probability for delta t equal to 3 milliseconds, and for the same data, we take delta t equal to 30 milliseconds. You can see easily that the slope is different and the width is different. From this slope and from this width as a function of frequency, we generate this plot. And from this plot, we find K and B. This is the steady state distribution. Okay, that we can find K, the multiplication KD from it. Okay, as I mentioned, this is the standard way to do TTM experiment. Now, we are using 900 nanometer DNA, and we expect to get 0.13 piconewton per micrometer for the spring constant, and for 80 nanometer beams, the diffusion coefficient is 5.5 micrometer squared per second. From the Boltzmann distribution or the steady state, we get spring constant which is 0.17 piconewton per micrometer. It can be because the DNA not attached to the surface in the end, but somewhere in the middle. Nevertheless, from our new formalism, we get slightly different spring constant, but the surprising parameter is the diffusion coefficient, which is much lower than the expected and with high variation. We think that this has happened because when we think that we look at 80 nanometer beam, we actually look at a much larger beam. Okay, because as the bead is larger, it's much brighter, easily seen on the microscope, and then naturally we get the data from these beads, which are much larger. Okay.
You have the whole hydrodynamics of DNA there. DNA by itself could contribute to this process.
Yes, I believe it's also depend on the DNA, but if you model the DNA as the spring, and so you have bead and in a potential field, I believe that the DNA itself does not affect it so much on the DNA, on the bead.
Are you taking into account also the fact that the bead is fucking next to a surface?
Yeah.
That changes a lot in this construct.
Yes.
The bead to surface
In our previous research, we studied three-dimensional TPM, okay, using evanescent field, as you showed before, and we find that the bead is very rare found close to the surface. Most of the time is high enough, so we can assume that the diffusion coefficient does not change because of the surface.
But how far is it? There are corrections due to Ozim in the distance divided by the radius of the bead.
Yes.
So if the distance is of the order of 80 nanometers, we have significant change.
Well, we believe that, as I mentioned, if I remember correctly, the typical height of the bead is about
160.
160 nanometer above the surface, and the correction is relative, we can neglect it.
Sure, but then it's not surprising you have small diffusion coefficient. You have DNA, which is about 200 nanometers in size there. So it's essentially you're moving not just the bead, not only the bead is moving, but also the DNA. So you have larger friction coefficient, so smaller DNA, smaller diffusion coefficient. It's totally expected that you would have this factor of 2 smaller.
I think that the DNA not supposed to affect so much. It's supposed to affect, but I don't know. Okay, we summarize. Smoluchowski formalism provides more information than the common methods gives us. Using this formalism, we can extract both D and K simultaneously, and in many cases where someone thinks that he knows what is the diffusion coefficient because you know that you used, let's say, 100 nanometer bead, probably you don't use exactly 100 nanometer bead, and using our formalism you can find what is the exact diffusion coefficient of your bead. And we believe that this method can lead to better results in Tweezer's experiments, etc. More details about this research you can find in our paper. You can scan this barcode and get the direct link to the paper.
Wait a second, wait, I'm writing down.
Huh?
Okay, I want to thanks to my group, especially to Yuval, Anat and Guy, that were part of this research, and thank you.